told your whole life that hard work is the answer. Work harder, work longer, outwork everybody else. And somewhere along the way, you took that idea to heart and built your life around it. You're up early, you stay late, you grind, you sacrifice, you push. And here you are, tired, older, still not where you wanted to be, wondering what you're doing wrong because the hard work you were promised would produce results hasn't actually produced them. Not the way you expected, not the way other people seem to have produced them. Here's the truth. Hard work by itself is no longer enough. It might never have been enough. But certainly today, in the world you actually live in, you cannot grind your way to the life you want with effort alone. Effort is part of the equation. It is not the whole equation. And the part that's missing is what most people never figure out, no matter how many hours they put in. You see, there are people working fewer hours than you who are producing more results. There are people grinding less and earning more. There are people you've watched year after year who seem to coast, and they end up further along than you do. That's not because they're lucky. It's not because the world is unfair. It's because they understand something about work that you haven't been taught. Listen, you have been running an incomplete strategy. The strategy includes hard work, which you've got. It's missing 4 other elements, which you don't. And the 4 other elements are the difference between effort that produces a paycheck and effort that produces a life. Today, I want to walk you through 5 reasons hard work alone isn't getting you where you want to go. And what actually is. Because the gap between those 2 things is the gap between the life you're living and the life you've been working toward. By the end of this, you'll see the pattern clearly, and you'll understand why the harder you've been pushing hasn't been producing more of what you want. Now, before we get into it, you have to understand what the hard work alone strategy is costing you. Because most people, when they think about hard work, think it's the safe bet, the conservative strategy. If I just work harder, eventually I'll get there. They don't see the bill they're paying for that belief. Here's the truth. The bill is your body, your relationships, your sanity, your time, all of it, paid in increments, year after year, into a system that doesn't pay back the way you've been told it does. You give the system your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, and the system gives you a paycheck. The paycheck does not grow at the rate your effort grows. The paycheck barely keeps up with the cost of living. And meanwhile, the things you traded for it, your health, your energy, your time with the people you love, are gone permanently. You see, hard work applied to the wrong things is not safe. It is the most expensive strategy you can run because it eats your one finite resource, your time alive, and produces a result that doesn't match the input. And the longer you run the strategy, the deeper you commit to it. By the time you realize it isn't working, you've already given the system most of what you had to give. And here's what most people don't see. The people who got where you wanted to go didn't get there by working harder than you. Some of them worked less hard. They got there by working differently. They added elements you haven't added. They applied leverage you haven't applied. They developed skills that pay differently than the ones you've been developing. The effort was part of their story. It was not the whole story. You must take this seriously. But here's the truth. You cannot afford to keep running this strategy. Every year you keep running the hard work alone strategy is a year you've paid the full price without buying the full result. And the years compound. By the time you're 60, you've either run the right strategy and gotten somewhere, or run the wrong strategy and arrived, essentially, where you started. Except now you're 60, and the body that would have done the work is no longer the body you have. This is not about working less. It is about understanding that hard work by itself is one ingredient in a recipe with several ingredients. And if you've only been adding the one ingredient, the recipe has not been working. Today, 5 reasons why and what to do instead. You must take this seriously, because the version of you who applies all 5 every single day for the next 10 years is going to be in a place the hardworking alone version of you could never have reached. Every single day matters. Every year matters. The compounding is what produces the gap. Start applying all 5 today. The first thing you have to understand is that hard work without direction is just exhaustion. It's not progress. It's not building. It's just movement in whatever direction you happen to be facing for as many hours as you can manage. And after a decade of that kind of movement, you can be very tired and have nothing to show for it. You see, most people set their direction once early in their adult life and then never revisit it. They picked the job because it was available. They picked the city because someone else was there. They picked the career path because their parents pointed at it. And then they spent the next 30 years grinding inside the path without ever asking whether the path was leading anywhere they actually wanted to go. And here's the truth. If the path is wrong, no amount of speed along it will produce a right destination. You can be the hardest working person on a road that leads to the wrong place. You'll just get to the wrong place faster. The effort doesn't fix the direction. The direction has to be set deliberately by you before the effort starts mattering. The fix is to step back every year and ask the question that almost nobody asks. Am I heading where I actually want to go? Not, am I working hard? You already know the answer to that. But is this path the right path for the life I want to live? If the answer is no, the answer is no. And no amount of additional effort is going to make the path the right one. You must check the compass, not just once, every year. Because life shifts, your priorities change. The thing you wanted at 25 might not be the thing you want at 35. And the path you chose at 25 might no longer match the destination you choose now. If you don't check, you'll keep walking that old path forever, while the destination you actually want drifts further out of reach. This isn't a one-time exercise, it is a discipline. Every year you sit down, you look at the next 10 years. You ask whether the direction you're heading is still the one you want. If yes, you keep going. If no, you adjust. And the adjustment, made at 35, saves you 20 years of going the wrong direction faster. You must do this. Every single day, every single decision you make about how to spend your hours either confirms the path or quietly contradicts it. Most people never do the check. They confuse motion for progress. They feel productive because they're busy. They feel responsible because they're working. But the busy and the working were never separate from the direction. And the direction is what makes the busy mean anything. Get the direction right first, then apply the effort. The order matters more than almost anything else you can learn about how to live. The second thing you must see clearly is that hard work on the wrong things, even within the right direction, is a trap. Because every job, every business, every project has activities that move the needle and activities that don't. And most people, by habit or by avoidance, spend most of their hours on the ones that don't. You see, in any field, there are a few activities that produce most of the results. And there are dozens of activities that feel like work, look like work, exhaust you like work, but produce almost nothing. The high-value activities are usually uncomfortable. They require thinking, deciding, risking, asking, building. The low-value activities are comfortable. They're routine. They feel safe. They keep you busy without forcing you to face anything. And here's the truth. Most people gravitate toward the comfortable activities. They tell themselves they're being productive because they're checking boxes. But the boxes they're checking don't matter. The boxes that would matter are the ones they're avoiding, because facing them would require something. The comfortable boxes don't. You must learn to identify the high-value activities in your work and then ruthlessly protect time for them. Not the easy stuff, the hard stuff, the stuff that, if you did it well, would actually change your trajectory. Most jobs have 1 to 3 activities that matter most. The rest is filler, even highly responsible filler, even necessary filler. But filler, the salesperson who spends their day organizing their files and updating their notes, is doing real work that produces no sales. The sales come from the calls, the hard, uncomfortable, vulnerable calls. And the salesperson who spends 2 hours a day making those calls and 6 hours organizing will never beat the salesperson who spends 2 hours organizing and 6 hours calling. You got to find your version of the calls, the version that exists in your specific work, the activity that, if you doubled it, would double your results. And then you protect time for that activity above all else. The other things, the organizing, the filing, the responding, the maintaining, they get whatever time is left over after the important thing has been done. This is going to feel wrong at first. You're going to feel like you're neglecting things. You're going to feel like you should be doing all of it. You're not going to feel productive in the same way. But the metric that matters isn't how productive you feel. It's what you produce. And what you produce comes from the few activities that matter, not from the many that don't. You got to make this shift deliberately. Most people never do. They keep working hard on whatever lands on their plate in the order it lands with equal energy, and they keep getting results in the middle of the bell curve. The shift made deliberately is what moves you to the right side of the curve, where everything different happens. Here's the truth. The third thing you must understand is that hours don't compound. Leverage compounds. And in the modern economy, in any economy actually, but more visibly today, the people producing the biggest results are not the people working the most hours. They're the people who have applied the most leverage to whatever hours they do work. You see, 2 people can work the same 40 hours a week. One of them works without leverage. They show up. They do tasks. They get paid by the hour or by the project. Their output is bounded by their personal hours. There's a ceiling, the number of hours they have, multiplied by what each hour can produce. Nothing can break that ceiling because no leverage has been applied. The other person works with leverage. They use systems that work for them while they sleep. They have people who do work that they themselves direct. They have built something, a business, an audience, a body of work that continues to produce value after they've stopped touching it. Their output isn't bounded by their personal hours. It's bounded by the leverage they've built, which can be much larger. And the difference between those 2 people over a working lifetime is enormous. The first person, the unleveraged worker, has a career-long earning ceiling roughly equal to their hourly rate times their hours. The leveraged person can earn 10 or 100 times that on the same number of hours because their hours are doing more work through the leverage. You must start asking the leverage question in your own work every year. What part of what I do creates an asset that keeps producing after I'm done with it? What part of what I do is just hours for money with nothing left behind? Most jobs are heavy on the second. The shift to leverage work usually requires you to deliberately create something that lives beyond the hour you spent on it. The forms of leverage are not infinite. Money is one, capital that produces returns. Ownership is another. Equity in things that grow. Reputation is a third. Work that produces opportunities long after the work was finished. Audience is a fourth. People who pay attention to you, whose attention has value. Built things, systems, businesses, books are leverage. Anything that keeps producing while you sleep is leverage. You don't have to apply all of them. You have to apply at least one. The person who has applied 0 forms of leverage, even after 30 years of hard work, is going to be in roughly the same position as somebody who applied none for 15 years. Because the unleveraged hours don't add up to anything that compounds. You must pick the form of leverage that fits your life. You cannot keep working without one. Then put deliberate work into building it alongside the regular grind. Over years, the leverage starts producing. And then somewhere, the leverage output overtakes the hourly output. And the math of your life flips into a category that the hours-only version of you could never have reached. The fourth thing you must accept is the hardest, because it requires accepting that the skill you've been building might not have been the right skill. Not all skills are equal. Some skills compound, some don't. Some are paid in increments. Some are paid in multiples. And the difference over a working lifetime is enormous. You see, most people pick a skill early in life, usually by accident, based on what was available or what their parents did or what their teachers steered them toward, and they spend the next 30 years getting better at that skill. But the skill they picked might be one of the kind that doesn't pay disproportionately, no matter how good you get at it. You can become the best in the world at something that the market doesn't reward, and the reward will still be modest. Meanwhile, the skills that pay disproportionately, communication, leadership, sales, judgment, building, the ability to organize other people's work. Those skills can be developed by anybody. They don't require a specific background. They require deliberate practice over years. But almost nobody deliberately develops them because almost nobody recognizes them as the high leverage skills they are. Let me tell you about a man I once knew. He had worked construction for 20 years by the time I met him. Hard worker, strong, reliable. The kind of guy who showed up before everybody else and stayed after everybody else left. He took pride in his work. He was good with his hands. He knew his trade, and by 45, his body was wrecked. His knees hurt, his back hurt. He had to ice himself every night just to be able to do the next day. And his hourly rate, which had increased slowly over 20 years, was still not enough to put away serious savings. He had given the work his body. The work had paid him in tired evenings and a paycheck that kept pace with inflation, but not with his ambition. He came to me, frustrated. He said, "I've been working harder than anybody on my crew for 2 decades. Why am I still here?" And I asked him a different question. I asked him, "What skill have you been deliberately developing for those 20 years? His answer, carpentry. I said, The carpentry has gotten you a hammer in your hands every day for 2 decades. Has it gotten you any other position? He said no. And I am telling you, this is the conversation that changed his life. I told him, the skill you've been building doesn't pay disproportionately. It pays linearly. You get better at it, you get a small raise. You're as good as you're going to get with it, and the rate is the rate. If you want a different outcome, you need to develop a different skill, one that pays disproportionately. Learn to manage projects, learn to estimate jobs, learn to talk to clients, learn to run a crew. He started. He paid attention to the project managers on his jobs. He asked them questions. He volunteered to help with the parts of the work that weren't hands-on. He took a course on construction estimating. He read books about leading teams. Within 2 years, he wasn't swinging the hammer anymore. He was running the project, and his pay had gone up 4 times. He told me after 20 years of swinging a hammer didn't produce a manager. 1 year of learning to manage produced a manager. The skill was the variable. The hours weren't the variable. He could have learned that skill at 25. He'd been working hard the whole time on the wrong skill for the outcome he wanted. The 5th thing is that in the long run, what makes the biggest difference in your earnings, your freedom, and your impact is whether you have a multiplier. Effort applied to skill, applied to leverage, produces output. But output without a multiplier means you have to keep producing it forever. With a multiplier, the output keeps producing without you. You see, the multiplier is what separates somebody who makes a good living from somebody who builds wealth. The good earner trades their hours for money at a high rate. They earn well as long as they keep showing up. The minute they stop, the money stops. Their income has no multiplier on it. The wealth builder, on the other hand, has set up something that produces income whether they're working or not. The business they own, the book they wrote, the investments they made, the relationships they cultivated that now produce referrals, the reputation that opens doors years after they stopped pushing on them. All of those are multipliers. They multiply the effort that originally created them again and again, long after the effort itself has been spent. Here's the truth. Most people never build a multiplier. They spend their whole career trading hours for money, getting slightly better rates as they go, and end up with a moderate income and no real wealth. They worked hard. They worked smart even. But they never built the thing that would have kept paying them after they stopped pushing. You must build at least one multiplier, even if it takes a decade, even if the early years produce nothing visible. The multiplier is the thing that will carry you when the hours can no longer do the work. It doesn't have to be a huge business. It doesn't have to be a famous book. It can be a small ownership stake, a modest portfolio, a side project that grows over years into something with its own life. A skill that's so rare, it produces inbound demand. Anything that produces output that's larger than the input you originally put into it. The multiplier takes years to build, decades often, which is why most people don't build one. The time horizon scares them off. They want results this quarter. They want to see the impact immediately. The multiplier doesn't work that way. It takes years of unattractive work before it starts producing. And during those years, the people just trading hours for money look like they're winning because they're earning more in the short term. But the math reverses over time. The hour trader is still trading hours at 50. The multiplier builder at 50 has something that produces while they sleep. By 60, the difference is enormous. By 70, the difference is the difference between 2 completely different lives. I'm telling you, the multiplier is the variable that produces the outcome most people want and almost nobody actually pursues. Pick yours. Start building it now, even if the early years look slow. By the time you're 40, 50, 60, the multiplier is what carries you. And the hard work that you put into it, instead of into more hours, will have been the best use of your effort you could have made. So here is the inversion you have to make. Hard work is necessary. It always was. It's still necessary, but it is not sufficient. And the conventional wisdom, work hard, you'll get there, has been incomplete this whole time. It needed to be paired with 4 other things, and those 4 things were rarely taught because the people teaching them were busy living their leveraged lives instead of explaining how they got there. The 4 other things are direction, focus on high-value activities, leverage, and the right skills. Hard work, applied through those 4 filters, produces outsized results. Hard work, applied without them, produces a job. And a job is fine, but a job is not what you wanted. You wanted something different. You can have something different, but you have to apply the 4 other elements. You got to start with direction. Every year you check your compass. Where am I headed? Is it where I want to go? Adjust if needed. Don't apply effort until the direction is correct, because effort in the wrong direction is the most expensive mistake you can make. Then focus. Inside the right direction, find the few activities that actually produce results. Most of your work, most of your time on those few activities. Everything else in second priority. The shift from being busy to being effective happens here. Then build leverage. You got to pick a form, even if you're not sure which one fits yet. Start with the one that feels most accessible to you. Money, ownership, reputation, audience, built things. Pick one that fits your situation and put deliberate work into building it alongside the regular work. Over years, the leverage produces independent output. The output starts running on its own. Then develop the right skills. Identify the high leverage skills in your field. Spend a year or 2 getting deliberately better at one of them. Stack the skills over time until you have a combination that almost nobody else has. And underneath all of that, work hard. The hard work is still part of the equation, but it's applied through the 4 other elements. So the effort produces an outcome the effort alone could never have produced. The hard work in this configuration becomes something else. It becomes investment. Time put into things that compound. That's the whole reframe. Stop relying on effort to be the answer. Use effort as one of the 5 answers. The 5 together produce a life that one alone never could. And you don't need more effort to apply the other 4. You need different effort, directed differently, applied to different things. So, here is what I want you to carry with you. Hard work by itself is the most overrated answer to most people's life problems. Not because hard work is bad, because hard work alone was never the full answer. And the people who told you it was were telling you what they were taught, not what was actually true. The real answer is hard work plus direction, plus focus on high-value activities, plus leverage, plus the right skills. 5 elements, all of them necessary, none of them sufficient on its own. Apply all 5 over the course of a working life, and you get a result that the 1-element version of you would have thought impossible. And here's the truth. The people who got the results you've been working toward applied all 5. They didn't apply more effort than you. They applied effort across more dimensions. They directed it. They focused it. They multiplied it. They developed the right skills to apply it through. And the cumulative effect was a life that, from the outside, looks like luck. From the inside, it was the deliberate application of 5 elements, sustained for decades. You must add the other 4. The one you've been running, hard work, is already in place. Add direction. Check your compass every year. Add focus. Identify the activities that produce most of your results and ruthlessly protect time for them. Add leverage. Build something that produces value without you. Add the right skills. Deliberately develop one high leverage skill every year, stacked on top of what you already have. Look, every single day you apply all 5 elements is a day that compounds. Within 5 years, your work will look very different. Not because you're working harder, because the same effort is now being applied through the 4 other elements. Within 10 years, the trajectory of your life will be unrecognizable from the trajectory you'd have had on hard work alone. That version of you is available. The path is right there. It doesn't require more grinding. It requires a different configuration of the grinding you're already doing. Apply the configuration, run it for 10 years, watch the outcome. The hard work that used to produce a paycheck will start producing a life. And the life it produces will be exactly the one you've been working for all along, without quite knowing why you weren't getting there. You must take this seriously. The years you have left to apply these 5 elements are limited. Every year you spend running just the one, just hard work alone, is a year you cannot get back. Add the 4 other elements. Start tomorrow. Watch your trajectory bend slowly over the next decade into a life the hard-working alone version of you could never have reached. The grind was never going to be enough by itself. Pair it with the 4. Then the grind starts producing what you always thought it should have. The world you live in pays for direction and leverage and skill stacking and multipliers. Hard work alone gets a paycheck. Hard work plus the 4 gets a life.